Good morning and welcome to the 12 Attitudes and Responsibilities of Mastery webinar. My name is Michael Bailey and today is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2016. And I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in and start here. Last week we left off with the attitudes and responsibilities of mastery. And so today we're going to start with codes of behavior. The attitudes and responsibilities are ideal codes of behavior to keep us centered. They help keep savior, martyr, and victimizer programs from driving the bus. They keep the ego in check and help us figure out what is truly divine guidance and what is not. The first step in receiving divine guidance is to accept yourself just the way you are. The tricky part is allowing yourself to recognize who you truly are. Each time we start to work with our attitude, we deal with something that affects the physical, something that affects the emotional, and something that affects the mental. So you will always have the physical, emotional, and mental level to bring into harmony with each other. Bringing these into harmonious balance raises our attitude to the next level of consciousness. The attitudes of mastery are concepts that the mental body can use to choose, look at, think about, and try to feel what it might be like to look at life that way. The attitudes of mastery are filters you can subconsciously choose instead of the ones that are culturally programmed in. Most of the filters we choose to look at the world through are subconscious. However, we can choose our filters, and we can alter them. It may take a while to integrate what the attitudes really mean and the feelings associated with them. Feelings that will heal aspects of the shadow body and get the mind into a space where it understands that we do not have to get caught up in certain reaction patterns. We have a choice in any situation. We can act or we can react. When we react, someone else or something else is controlling our power. We are just giving a knee-jerk reaction to whatever somebody else decided to create. Remember that your consciousness is the camera, and you can change the filters. Beliefs are ideas. Ideas turn into sound patterns of electromagnetic light and sound when they are in the body. If your beliefs and the things that you choose to honor with your mind are not in divine alignment as far as what creates harmony and peace, it will literally create blockages in your bioenergetic field that block the ability of the higher levels to integrate. Most of us are looking at the world through our shadow, and we do not even know that it is happening. We just feel it. That is where we get the fear feeling, the worry feelings, and the anger feelings. These are all reactions. Also, where we get the days when we are absolutely manic. You're just wired. The frequencies are working. You feel good that day. Then you get the opposite, and you go into depression. All of these things are the play between the energies of the light and the shadow within each person. The shadow does not use any of these attitudes as filters. It uses fear, lack, and it feels that it has to take in order to survive, because it is afraid of not surviving at the core of its being. If we can learn to choose action and choose our filters and realize we had that choice in the first place, we can choose the 12 attitudes of mastery. This is where it begins. The attitudes and co-creation. The conscious mind plays a role in whether we experience our hologram in freedom or in chains. The term hologram refers to your external reality. your general perception of the world. Attitude is everything. Attitude can determine whether you are in a state of turmoil or nervous breakdown, or whether you are in a state of grace and peace, and you walk around smiling anyway, no matter what is going on. It does not mean a false smile or a plastic smile, the kind you get at Walmart. It means if you are feeling yucky, let yourself feel yucky. But tell yourself, okay, I'm processing this. I will get rid of it, and I'm not going to take it out on other people. But I honor myself enough to let myself process it. I'm not going to force myself to smile when I know I don't feel like it. It does not mean getting stuck in the feeling. When you get sick after a challenging day, you have to find very interesting ways to handle that. You watch your body curved around you, and you are crawling through your days going, ow, and one thing gets better and something else goes. You can get really, really grouchy. You can feel like you can get depressed or not. It is harder when you have to live with someone else, be it a child, a spouse, or a parent. When you are feeling lousy and ready to bite anything that walks by just because you want to throw the energy somewhere, and if they are feeling lousy too, you hold the energy or breath until it explodes, or you throw it at someone. There is a certain way you can begin to look at this. You can choose to look at it differently. The attitudes of mastery are simple things you can take with you. You don't have to remember a billion different formulas of Merkaba mechanics to make a shift in the ideas and the words you are telling yourself about a situation. I feel yucky. Okay, my body is purging. What is yucky anyway? What is disease? Dis-ease. It means your body is trying to get itself back to health, because health is its normal state of being. If you look at disease as a bad thing that invades your body and causes you harm, and you are this poor little victim of disease, you're setting in motion a thought process that will chemically suppress your own immune system so that reality becomes more and more true. Literally, you are what you think. When you find yourself having emotional, mental, or physical issues, if you tell yourself, my mental, emotional, or physical body is trying to rebalance itself back to a natural state of health, you are reaffirming that the natural state is health. You are looking at the dissidence as being simply a part of the body rebalancing itself. This completely changes the chemical reality of the word disease. When it registers in your body, it helps to strengthen your immune system. There are certain thoughts that increase the body's production of endorphins, resulting in happy feelings of health and healing that actually strengthen the immune system. Scientists are beginning to discover this. They are beginning to do research with affirmations and thought ideas to see what they do chemically in the body. Many times we feel powerless here on this planet. Many of us are made to feel small. People are raised with the belief systems that teach you that you are small and insignificant, and that you can't make a difference, and that the individual doesn't mean anything, or at the very least, not much. When we start to see what we are a part of, we begin to realize that we can make a huge difference. If it were not for the people who paid attention to the work of the Guardian Alliance, which is where these teachings come from, we would not have anyone here on this planet to anchor the frequencies necessary for the Christos realignment mission. If it were not for the information being brought back here to us, and if it were not for people like you that were listening to that information and felt the resonance within yourself, everyone would be activating a Metatronic Merkaba, which is it's distorted. We would all be descending into black hole fall and thinking that we were ascending into Christ consciousness. We can really help ourselves by what we tell ourselves. Remember, we are big. Bigness is just another way of saying there is an expanded series of you that's in some other place and time. You can choose in the moment to sense a little bit of the expanded you and play with the idea of you being here and now, looking through the ideas that you have in your body, listening through the ears you have on the side of your head, and feelings with the hands that exist on the ends of the arms. Why not? Only the way that you are thinking, only the way that you choose prevents that from being. There is no reason except your mental set, the way that you come to this question, and more importantly, the point from which you approach this as potential to be this thing called big you. You actually have 5 levels of identity in this time matrix alone. 5 levels. There's the incarnate personality, which is the you that's here on 3D Earth. There's the soul. Above that is the oversoul. Above that is the avatar self. And above that is the rishi self. And beyond that is the ascended master parts of yourself. This big you is reaching through your body for many reasons, some of which are very practical, immensely useful, and very influential. Others are to remind itself what it felt like to have a relationship, to make love, to worry about money, or to choose between vegetarianism or the recognition that protein is not really so horrible. All sorts of reasons. And do you know what the fun is? What the key is? Fun. Fun is what a lot of us are working on. Sometimes we get so busy that we forget all about fun. The spiritual journey a lot of us are going through is not always a lot of fun. But you would be surprised how much you can shift the way you feel about things just by experimenting with choice. Some things to ponder. What are you feeling right now? Can you consciously shift your mind to focus on something fun? Allow yourself to play with choice and see how it feels in your body. Take a few moments and think about what is fun for you. What brings laughter into your life? What can you do that would bring a feeling of lightness into your hologram or your experience? What is the role of conscious creativity in your life? Can you consciously create fun in your life? And how would you do that? LTR statements are linguistic template reprogramming statements. They're spoken affirmations that you say to yourself out loud usually. I am whole now. I am my Christo self now. My life is full of wonder, grace, joy, and fun. I am this. I am. Developing spiritual mastery. Attitude is important. Your attitudes assist in developing spiritual mastery. The frequency you pull in will guarantee you certain kinds of relationships with your external environment. Chaotic thinking attracts chaotic frequency patterns, separating yourself from source, or God source. Source is another word for God, because God is the source of all. Attitude will make or break you. The frequency is providing you with that way of perceiving your environment, your hologram. Chaotic thoughts guarantee that you will automatically react in certain ways, like a puppet or a marionette. Anything that contracts from frequency level is called dissonance. It is a reducing order. It's a contraction. On the basis of frequency accretion, by engaging in chaotic thoughts, you attract more chaotic frequency patterns to you, which by definition means that you push yourself away from God's source. These are all conscious choices. In the process of millions of years, you are actually pulling more apartheid into your shields without knowing it. Now, apartheid is a word that means energy receivers in your subtle energy bodies. So apartheid are like little antennae that pick up types of frequencies. Attitude and thought patterns embed in the DNA template and create chemical realities in the body that help you move through stargates, which are not metal rings, but they're actually portals that go into higher existences. This is what ascension is all about. Or they can stop you from being able to transit a stargate. Making a choice for mastery. The Christic truths speak eternal, regardless of who does or does not listen. What makes a master is someone making a choice to follow a path of Christic evolution. Masters do not come ready-made. It is a path taken by choice and moved along by hard work and adherence to Christic principles. We do not know of anyone who walks on water or turns water into wine. Most everybody here, at least on Earth, is a master's work in progress. Anyone can make the choice to become a master. It is the distorted programs inside of us that run that tired old "I am not worthy" program, which makes us think everyone else is more evolved or further along than we are, which is a bunch of fallen angelic crap. FA means fallen angelic. Anyone at any time can choose to take the path of mastery. Just like any person on the path of mastery can choose to take a descending path. Both options are but a simple choice away. Ethics, decency, and meaningful, down-to-earth spiritual responsibility needs to be seen and experienced as a keynote of our respective personal and public spiritual endeavors. We either attempt to ignore our spiritual responsibilities or embrace them lovingly, regardless of the apparent influences of mindless criticism and maladroit spiritual personalities. There is a part of the path of mastery. Mastery calls for people who respect themselves enough to demand the right to understand and thereby express their willingness to accept the huge responsibility for becoming who they truly are in the final fulfillment of the most sacred mission, which for many has spanned 250 billion years. For those who have not committed to the A&R focus, it is never too late to jump on board. It is an activity for all, newcomers and oldcomers alike. It's a great way to connect to what we call the Christic shield. Exclusion is a personal choice. And some things to ponder. Are you willing to align yourself with Christic principles no matter how hard it gets? What choices do you find yourself making when the going gets tough? What do you think is your spiritual responsibility? Are you willing to lovingly embrace your spiritual responsibility? And some LPR statements or affirmations. I accept now my responsibility to become who and what I am. I am this. I am. Arrogance and spiritual violation. There are times when we demand that others justify their existence and perspectives in precise accordance with our presently limited concepts and ideas pertaining to the nature of reality. We continue to project our own hidden and denied improprieties or inequities of integrity, clarity, and motivation upon others, blaming and accusing them of precisely the very unsavory attitudes, actions, motivations, and behaviors that we ourselves are spewing into the external world. Sometimes we fail to recognize what utter arrogance, spiritual violation of others, spiritual denial of ourselves, and absolute immaturity and ignorance that this type of demand of justification from others implies. Someone might say to you, well, justify your reason for existing. You're just a consumer. All you do is consume. That's just an example. Where did we ever get the idea that anyone, God, Source, the universe, the eoni, which are the people that bring us these teachings, our parents, our partners, or our teachers, the government, etc., is required to justify their existence or perspectives to us, or owes us anything, including an explanation or an answer? No one owes anyone anything. We owe ourselves these things and much more. But as long as we refuse to accept responsibility for this by projecting our power and accountability onto external sources, blaming and angrily demanding that the external instead of lovingly giving it and to ourselves, we will continue to disempower ourselves and perpetually place ourselves into the role of playing victim. So we can draw to ourselves the external mirror to reflect back to us the ways in which we are victimizing and denying our true selves. Others are merely mirrors of you. You cannot love or hate something about another person unless it reflects something you love or hate about yourself. That's a truism my mother taught me many years ago. Attention and answers from our own personal inner Christos, from God's source, and from the beloveds, or their earthly representatives, and from everything in the universe, are available if we appreciate that attention and answers are gifts, not entitlements that we have a right to take for granted. If we repeatedly fail to recognize this fact and continue to spew demand, judgment, blame, and accusation of others into our world will progressively frustrate us by faithfully reflecting back the same insensitivity, unkindness, unfairness, judgment, and lack of love we ourselves are spewing. Those of us who justify our inappropriate use of energy in this way can spew at God, the beloved, their earthly representatives, their parents, etc., until our hearts are content. But in this way, our hearts will never be content, for it is ourselves, not anyone else, whom we are hurting through such attitudes and actions. By such actions, we keep ourselves stuck in the victim-victimizer blame game. If one desires Christic assistance in finding one's own answers to personal questions, including those pertaining to these teachings or this work, then we suggest asking one's questions in a loving, appreciative, kindly, sincere Christic manner, a practice through which one might find that the feedback one hopes to acquire returns in similar or like Christic fashion. Ask your question in a respectful way rather than a challenging one. The posture of, I asked a question, I deserve an answer mode reeks of entitlement issues, victim-victimizer scenarios, and you will most probably get sent the 12 attitudes of responsibility in response to your question. At least if you do that to me, that's what I would do. I would send you a copy of the 12 A&Rs. It will help if you demonstrate some responsibility for your own enlightenment, perhaps asking to be directed to where you could find this information. It is not anyone's job to show anyone anything. The answer is always found in the quest, the internal process that matures us as we experience these questions and find the answers ourselves. Therein lies the true power and the gift that the question brings. It is not anyone else's role to provide those answers for another. Something I was thinking of just a little earlier today was someone was asking me, how do I make my life better? And I told her, I said, well, I can give you some suggestions. I can suggest you try to live and embody the attitudes and responsibilities of mastery. And I remember she said to me something, well, I don't understand them. And I turned to her and I said, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But the teacher may not always be a person. It may just be something that when you're ready, there's a frequency alignment, and what you're seeking will automatically find its way to you. You'll draw it to you. Once one has learned and embodied the lessons of divine love and power, one recognizes that the greatest joy is in the giving, not in the taking, and that the greatest power is in the being, not in the controlling. The Emerald Order Freedom Teachings hold the sacred law of one. Judgment and elitism have no place. And some things to ponder on this line. When you want answers about something, do you do the bulk of the work in researching the answers? When you have questions about something, do you get upset if someone does not answer all the question, but instead directs you to where you can find your own answers? A very good example of this is in the Skype rooms. Many times people will ask the same simple questions like, when's the coin going public, or all kinds of questions. And rather than answering them, usually what most of us will do is refer them to the recordings of the webinars. I send out notes. This is, not to be cruel, but to encourage them to become responsible for their own information. And some affirmations. I now take full responsibility for my own enlightenment. I am finding the answers to my questions now. I am divine love, power, wisdom, and knowledge. I am this. I am. Violation of spiritual integrity. We can stay focused on the most important task right now, and that is clearing our own template and healing the distortions that are there through diligence with the techniques. And we'll get to the techniques later on. Clearing our template right now is planetary service of the highest magnitude, because the more we clear, the more we carry out with us, serving as hosts. I know that when I began to awaken spiritually, I had this feeling that I should be doing something. At least that was my interpretation of it, that I was something I was supposed to do. And I went nuts trying to find out what I was supposed to be doing. I came to understand that it has more to do with being. Because when you anchor and transmit higher frequencies, you're helping everyone around you, whether they're aware of it or not. So just by being here on the planet and clearing and improving your own life, you're actually helping others. Actually, that's actually service of the highest order. It is a violation of someone's spiritual integrity to scan or check their fields without permission. The condition of someone else's fields is not our business. It is also not safe. It leaves us open to intrusion by energies in their fields that might not have our best interests at heart. The best protection is not to probe in another's fields. Now, if they give you permission, that's different, but this is about respecting free will. It is a psychic intrusion and a violation of someone's personal space. We should tend to our own gardens and stay focused on being the best holders of frequency we can possibly be. Working every day with the attitudes and responsibilities of mastery will help us stabilize the incoming frequencies as we heal our own templates. And I can tell you that 5 or 6 years ago when I made a conscious decision, I made a choice to live and embody the attitudes and responsibilities of mastery, my life has done a complete turnaround, more than 180 degrees. It's done a whole spiral, 360 degrees, back up to a new level. I mean, I can't praise them highly enough. They're very effective tools. The power of thought. The angelic mind looks at things differently. It recognizes that as a conscious being, it has a choice as to which ideas it will represent. You have the responsibility for learning to observe your own thoughts. Become mindful. Become aware of what is going on in your mind. No matter how awful your thoughts may be, if you allow them to move through you, they change into something else by the way you react to them, because you add your energy to them. Your thoughts directly affect your DNA template. Your DNA template is the structure that moves or throws energy around in very specific ways that creates the projection of the external hologram that we all walk in. Every time you think, you create a scalar wave pattern that sets a blueprint for manifestation. Everything begins with a thought. Thoughts are things, and they are extremely powerful. There is a biological reality of spiritual integrity that manifests chemically within your DNA as a result of the state and focus of your consciousness. In the long run, it is your own biology that will be your taskmaster, because passage through stargates, or ascension, requires a sufficient amount of chemically encoded spiritual integrity of consciousness. Controlling your mind. Excuse me, just one second. Learning to control your mind is not a rigid thing. It isn't a forced thing. It's something that must be done out of love. It must be, excuse me, it must be done in a way where you start off with absolute love for yourself, absolute forgiveness for yourself ahead of time, absolute in your determination. I will not judge myself. This is how you begin the process of learning genuine mastery of your mind and your mind patterns. If you experience chaotic patterns from the D2, which is Dimension 2, elemental emotional body, we suggest that you use your mental body, or your mind, to first acknowledge it. Then, just let it move through you. If you repress emotion because it doesn't feel good, and you use your mind as a dictator instead of as a liberator, you will end up simply tying yourself in knots. You create emotion is emotion, energy in motion. And so if you try to repress it and hold it in, you're creating blockages, which eventually when you get enough of them, they turn into disease. And eventually, essentially that's what cancer is. It's part of what cancer is blocked energy. You will not help your manifestation process. You will not be doing spiritual integration, and you will not be setting yourself free. It is time to become aware of stuff that needs to be cleaned up. It is a good time to clean it up, and the best place to start is with what you are going to let yourself think about. We do not want to manifest at the speed of thought until we are clear. We need to fix the thought-generating machine first, which is our mind, not just the brain, but our mind, our mental body. We must clear ourselves, heal things that lead us into reversals or mutations, integrate the shadow, and learn responsible manifestation. Otherwise, if you get this power back and you're having a bad day, you can really manifest yourself a worse one. Imagine what your life would be like if your thoughts manifested physically immediately. You literally have to become a master of the mind before that power can be restored. When you first begin to become a master of your hologram, mental body training is what usually comes first. Learn to choose your thoughts. Learn to observe what your thoughts are doing. You do this by becoming mindful, which means you take some time to be alone privately with no music, no distractions. Simply close your eyes and say, "All right, self, I'm just going to sit and observe." Meditation is another name for that. You learn to observe what is happening in the space in your head first, without any sensory distraction. The best place to do it is in a dark room with a comfortable temperature where you don't have any light distracting you and you don't have any temperature variation distracting you. Iani protocol includes ownership, responsibility, and accountability of and for your words. And some things to ponder. Observe your thoughts. There's no need to think about your thoughts, just observe. Allow them to pass through. I envision them as clouds moving past on the sky, and rather than trying to grab one and see what it is, I just observe and let them move through. Take a breath. Focus on your breathing. Allow your breath to be like a breeze blowing through the thoughts. Continue to focus on your breathing and just allow yourself to be. And some suggested LTR statements or affirmations. I take full ownership of all my words and of all my creations. I am responsibility. I am accountability. I am absolute love. Excuse me, just one second. Okay. Coming back into balance. The natural template for humans, for all things actually, is divine health. It is that balance between the negative and the positive, that center point of engaged detachment that creates eternal divine health. That is where the balance is. That is the path of joy. When you're able to follow that balance, you can take one day or maybe a week at a time. I will go through this week and see what next week pops up. Most often, we do not say to ourselves, okay, this week has been an interesting experience that I created. I'm going to create a better experience next week. Some of us now are starting to get the fact that we are the creators and the manifestors of our experience. And we say, I intend to create a better week. I say it now. One thing that I've encountered in dealing with many people is many people believe that humans don't create, only God creates. It's this idea that only God creates. Well, the truth is that we are all parts of God. We are all God. Not gods over anyone else, but we are all part of the one. That's what the law of one is all about. Do you know your subconscious? Do you know your body consciousness? They're actually two separate levels. If you don't, you still do not have that power of conscious manifestation, because your template has accreted so much frequency that the will, intention, and the twisted energy patterns that are stored in our lower bodies are still going to project out into your hologram. Your mental body will do the same thing. If you learn to keep your thoughts balanced and don't become too attached to negative or to positive, you will eventually allow that stuff to come up in your subconscious, where you will see it in your hologram. Again, it's about becoming mindful and just learning to observe. I'll tell you, in the last few 5 or 6 years, since I started practicing mindfulness, I've become aware of things going on in my mind that I had no idea were really going on. It's just a process of becoming observant. But you will not react to it where you give it the power. You take the power back and you say, you need healing. And you just take in a part of yourself that was out of control and assemble it back into yourself. We are clearing our subconscious minds as we walk through our hologram and see the stuff that gets thrown up at us. Our thoughts and the manifestations in our hologram are showing us a part of ourselves that is out of harmony with its natural divine blueprint, that is kind of lost in chaos and doesn't know what to do. So that chaos comes back to us, and we are supposed to be able to realize that and say, okay, this chaos that just came into my life has a lot to do with me. It is showing me a part of myself from the past. It is all happening now, but the past is the lower frequency part of yourself that is asking for your healing. Every negative experience, negative, unpleasant type of experience that comes to you has a message for you about what needs to be healed in your template. Some things to ponder. Thought is the keystone of all creation and the organic essence of being. In other words, your divine blueprint. Learn to pay attention to your thoughts. Sit for a half hour and just listen to your thoughts. If you can't do a half hour, start with 10 minutes. If you can't do 10 minutes, start with 5. I started with 10 and then extended it to 20 and then 30 and on. Now I can do it for a couple hours. In fact, I could sit all day and just listen to my thoughts. And some LTR statements or affirmations. I am this, I am. I am perfect balance. I am whole now. And I'm going to pause here for today, because I try to keep this to about 45 minutes. So we'll continue next week with fear. Do we have any comments or questions? Okay, if not, I'm going to wrap it up here for today. And next week, next Wednesday, we'll begin here with fear and what it is. So thank you for listening. If you're here and you're listening, it's by your own choice, and it was not an accident. So we'll see you next week. Thank you.